A 45-year-old American man named Paul is going through the death of his wife. Walking not far from the hotel the couple own, the man notices a young and spectacular girl. Jean arrived in the capital a few hours ago and wants to rent an apartment. Noticing an advertisement on the wall, she enters an ancient house and asks the concierge for the key to go upstairs and inspect the apartment. Once inside, she looks around the apartment and meets Paul, who arrived a few minutes before she arrived. Trying not to disturb the strange man, she looks around the apartment and doubts whether it is worth renting. At one point, Paul seduces the girl and the couple makes love. Leaving the apartment, they tear down an ad and rent a place where they can see each other and have a good time. Hurrying to the train station, Jeannie meets her fiancé Tom, a young aspiring director who has decided to make a movie starring his girlfriend. The picture is called Portrait of a Woman and will be about their love. Jean does not like this idea because she does not want to put her personal life on display, but she cannot refuse her lover. Meanwhile, Paul returns to the hotel and talks to the cleaning lady, who washes the blood off the walls, mirrors, and bathtub. It was in this room that his Rose took her own life without leaving a goodbye note. The next morning, Jean rushes to the apartment to set up the place. The movers bring in the furniture and arrange it chaotically around the house. A while later, Paul visits his mistress and helps to rearrange the furniture. Deciding to get a little closer, Jean wants to talk about herself, but the man closes her mouth, not allowing her to say her name. The apartment is a space closed off from the outside world, where they are not supposed to talk about themselves or events that happen to them outside of it. Jean likes these rules, for it creates a certain mystery, and in the hand of reason is the unknown. Upon returning to the hotel, Paul meets Rosa's mother, who has come to attend her daughter's funeral. The woman cannot understand Rosa's act after all. She was a beautiful, spectacular, and wealthy lady living in the center of Paris. She had a job she loved and a wonderful husband, but that didn't stop Rosa. Paul also cannot understand the reasons for the deed of his wife, but tired to think about it. The mother of the deceased prepared for the funeral, brought clothes for her daughter, and made an invitation to the event. She also wants to invite a priest, but Paul forbids to do so, as they did not believe in higher powers, and the church does not accept people who have settled accounts with life. Again and again returning to the apartment, Jean cannot resist the gray-haired American and each time gives himself to him, despite the fact that Paul behaves with her rudely and neglectfully. Back at home, she helps Tom make a movie, talking about her late father, remembering her childhood and the adventures that happened to her at that time. Giving in to bright memories, Jean cannot resist and shares them with Paul. The man responds with nastiness, apartment's abomination to listen to, which he does not intend. Trying to get to know the man a little better, Jean asks him to explain why Paul is not returning to America. Diving into his memories, he confesses that his father and mother were drunks. His childhood was drenched in pain and suffering as his parents were arrested for minor public order offenses. In his personal life, Paul also experienced difficulties as he had to look after the household, sacrificing his free time. Trying to distract herself from the memories, Paul suggests role-playing. Imagining a man in the image of the gray wolf, the girl tenderly kisses his hands, but still remembers her childhood. Jean's first love was her cousin, but he never came to the yard, where two large trees, sycamore and chestnut, grew. Jean and the cousin would sit opposite each other and satisfy themselves by competing for speed. At some point, the girl realizes that all these stories are indifferent to Paul because he is withdrawn in his loneliness. Offended, Jean satisfies herself and goes home. Paul does not pay attention to this because he remembered about his spouse and love for her, so he cannot hold back tears. A couple of days later, the man notices that his young mistress fumbles through his pockets. Jean is ready to do anything to find out anything about him, but Paul does not welcome it. He frankly says and does nasty things, but the girl must tolerate it if she wants to stay close to him. Getting ready to leave the apartment, She asks Paul to wait for her to go together, but the man leaves without waiting for her. Disappointed, Jean goes to meet her young man. She is in a bad mood and does not want to do the movie, as she is tired of the constant pretending and lying. Tom with difficulty calms her down, hugs and kisses the girl, proving that his feelings for her are sincere. In the evening, Paul cannot sleep and visits Marcel, Rose's lover, with whom she met for the past year. The husband knew about his wife's adventures, but could not do anything about it, because he was afraid of losing her because of a ridiculous quarrel. After a little talking and drinking, the husband and the lover sympathize with each other, as Rose's premature departure was a strong blow for both of them. Paul admires Marcel's physical shape, as he is not as attractive as before, but his lover manages to remain as attractive as the day he checked into the hotel. Meeting Jean once again, Paul asks her to bring butter. At some point, he greedily pounces on the young mistress and uses her dirty. The girl liked it at first, but now she is tired of being neglected. Meeting Tom in the park, Jean helps to shoot a few more scenes for his movie. At some point, the novice director confesses his feelings to the girl and offers her to become his wife. Jean is unable to refuse and immediately begins preparations for the wedding. Trying on the dress, she does not shy away from the cameras and discusses what family life will be like. It starts to rain heavily, and the cameramen hide the cameras, trying to protect the expensive equipment. Tom is concerned that the filming is being disrupted and asks them to get back to work. Seizing the moment, Jean runs off to meet Paul again. After waiting for her mature lover, the girl enters the elevator with him and scuffs up her wedding dress, trying to seduce Paul. The romantic mood quickly fades as there is a dead rat in their bed. The man calms his mistress, as this is far from the worst thing that can happen in life. Jean is very wet in the rain, and Paul offers her to take a hot bath. During the water procedures, the girl tells him that she has fallen in love and will soon get married. Paul is not at all frightened by this, as he is sure that Jean will not leave someone like him, and allows her to use him dirty. Meanwhile, everyone is preparing for the funeral. Back at the hotel, Paul enters the room where her body lies, cleaned for the ceremony. During an emotional dialogue addressed to his wife, the man accuses her of betrayal and lies, but at the same time asks for forgiveness and confesses his love. Realizing that life without Rose will not be the same, Paul promises to end his life, but has not yet found a way to do it. Returning to work, he meets a strange woman at the entrance to the hotel who has decided to rent a room for a couple of hours. While Paul turns her down, his lover uses this as a chance to escape. After learning that the woman was acquainted with his wife, Paul catches up with the man and punishes him for his wife's infidelity. Soon Jean comes to the apartment again and sees that Paul has left. The girl is very upset and cries bitterly, realizing that their relationship is over. Deciding to stay in this apartment, she invites Tom and offers him to rent a place, but the young director does not want to live in such terrible conditions. On the way out of the apartment, Jean is overtaken by Paul and says that he would like to resume the relationship on new terms. The girl rejects him and thinks that everything is over, but Paul thinks otherwise. He gives his name, talks about the motel and the death of his wife, recalls his childhood, and admits that he has health problems. After going on their first date, the couple goes to an establishment where there is a competition among tango dancing couples. Paul continues to insist on the relationship, but the girl again refuses. After getting drunk, the couple decides to dance the last tango in Paris. Their dance differs significantly from what the other couples demonstrate, and the host tries to chase away the drunken lovers. Paul is clearly dissatisfied with this decision and demonstratively exposes his butt, after which he leaves the dance floor. Having secluded with the girl, she asks passers-by for help, but no one pays attention to her. Having reached her mother's apartment, Jean tries to hide, but Paul breaks in and asks for a name. The young mistress says her name and at the same moment shoots the stalker with her late father's gun. Stepping out onto the balcony, Paul dies. Jean doesn't want to go to jail, so she develops a version that justifies the murder as the only option for self-defense. You are on the channel on Recap Roman. Don't forget to subscribe and put a like to not miss new videos.